Alright, and welcome to this Blender episode number 23. And in this episode I'm just gonna go through some of the new updates for Blender 2.8, then touch upon the UI changes, and finally land in just my theme I'm working on. But anyway, let's jump into Blender and check out the new stuff. So one of the first things is wireframe mode is added as an overlay, which is really nice. You can use it to take screenshots or renders of your topology, mesh topology. You don't need to offline render with Cycle, you can just use this viewport. And a second thing, of course, is this look dev version. I'm just gonna turn off overlays for now, where you have you can have a HDRI and show background or not. I really like this. I don't like this HDRI actually, but I like this option to jump into look dev and then go back to your scene and kind of isolate one character and work on that or asset. The HDRI you see here is in my opinion a bit better than the one we got, but as soon as they make a UI to add them, I'm gonna probably add this one. This one is from Epic's Unreal Engine 4. You can find the asset and export it and then use it in Blender yourself. So and I don't know the license for it, but Unreal Engine itself is open source now and free, basically. So you can, if you don't, it could be a possibility for, I think, for Blender Foundation to actually maybe contact Epic and ask if they can use their HDRI, because I read up on this and it's they've done a lot of stuff with the grading and the color to get it balanced, and you have one part that's kind of bright and white, and then you can look at this way and have shadow. So I'm gonna personally use that one instead of this one, which is overly reddish and yellowish, too warm. It's not neutral enough to do look dev on. But the basic idea is that you can probably have several of these, and you should probably have one with low light and one with natural with green light and stuff like that, and just make sure your shaders work in all settings, which they should if you're working in PBR. Another thing added is this specular highlights, which I personally really don't like, but maybe you like it, so you can use it. X-ray is the same as before. Now you can use X-ray with wireframes, and you can actually turn on off the X-ray completely, so you have as in 2.79 if you like that. Personally, for me, I'm probably just gonna not use X-ray that much unless I really have to. Maybe it's good for like a bigger scene layout and stuff like that. Also, wireframe is basically just to check topology. You still have this old school setting, this button, which make the mesh transparent, so you see to the background, or you see through it, and you can turn it on and off again. This was also added feature, so you have really like buttons here, which is really nice. I would maybe want to see a grouping, like the shading and the overlay, they're kind of grouped together. Maybe these guys could be grouped together like those. Otherwise they get kind of a bit floaty by themselves, but okay, so let's talk about the UI changes for a while. So Pablo made a video and talked about it today. So they have this single column layout mode, which is probably going to be the standard, but hopefully there can be a setting to use double or triple, or like a responsive layout with breakpoints, because a lot of people seem to like it. Personally, I really love this one. The checkboxes are or the input fields are super clean with only the values, which is perfect. And center align with text, right align. I personally love it. It's really easy to scan and just see the values and change them. This way you can also easily double or multiple change values. Yeah, I understand if somebody else wants double or triple, but it should be a setting, and hopefully the add-on developers could make a single column layout design and a responsive one. Of course, there's gonna be some places where it's horrible, like this, like the metadata stamp. I'm taking this for example, where you have basically matrices of checkboxes, or a checkbox hell. It's just checkboxes everywhere. But usually you just go in here and select whatever you want. I want time, marker, whatever, and label. So this is, you can burn it into the image. But it's basically the stuff added to a render image. But anyway, to get rid of this checkbox cell, you could use something maybe like a menu like this. So you have one button at the top, only one row, called stamps or something, and you click it, and you have all the checkboxes there. Not like this, but maybe like one of these menus. So you can just click whatever you want to stamp, close that menu, and you have it. Yeah, you have it set, because it's not super important settings, and you usually do it once, and then you're done. Otherwise, I really like it. I hope they go through everything. It seems like they're working on it and cleaning up the UI a bit and stuff like this for the output. My suggestion would be like this whole block should be actually just beneath this one to make it look a bit better and yeah, more natural, because you're gonna name your render output. And then you want to choose the file type and yeah, alpha channels and stuff like that. So if you move this stuff up here under this one, it could be a bit more symmetrical also. So you have this span that's over the entire property panel, and this one spans also, and then you can have all these extra checkboxes under. But yeah, they're working through it, and so far I love what I see. Yeah, I'm gonna talk a bit about. So I had this theme called Default++, and I actually seen on Twitter a lot of people using it. So if you don't use it, this part is gonna be probably a bit boring for you, because I'm gonna talk about theming for 2.8. But I'm gonna try and update Default++ for 2.8. And my general idea is like to remove all the buttons and menu, or the heavy contrast button menus. So by default they are black and with white text, and I really don't, I'm not super fond of that. So instead I'm going for this softer look. And besides that, a lot of buttons is actually going away in 2.8, it seems. For render and stuff, you're gonna have to go over here and render, or press F12. But the general idea is to keep the graphical UI part really low contrast, and try to have high contrast on text fields. And I'm gonna leave all these as they are by default color. But yeah, work a bit on node editors, and that's also a nice thing. Now you have shader and compositing, and then it actually flips to the corresponding. What have I done here? Oh, anyway, so if you go to shader, you go directly to material editing, and there's another one also, texture, but I haven't figured out. Yeah, it's this where you can generate textures procedurally. But yeah, so hopefully I'm gonna continue working on the theme and have it releasable at 2.8. But I really like the UI changes so far. There hasn't been that super much done to Eevee itself, but a lot of stuff gone through the workbench, which is running on Eevee. So I think that's it for this video. Besides that, I really like Eevee, and 2.8, the entire interface is really nice, except sculpting and painting so far, but hopefully they're gonna work on that. The main problem for me is sculpting with a Wacom pen and having this like long press on menus to expand them. I can show you what I mean. So if you go into sculpt mode, okay, weird, I only have one brush. Okay, it could be the source file itself. Let's go to sculpt mode. So yeah, if you're on a Wacom pen and gonna sculpt this one, and you want to use your own sculpt brushes, you have to like click and long hold and drag and stuff like that. It gets really tedious. So I'm not sculpting in 2.8 yet, but for look dev and yeah, doing this everything else, modeling and stuff, is really nice, and probably gonna be a huge step up forward in 2.8 and onward. So I'm just waiting until I can switch to it for production. Another thing with the tabs is really nice that I'm gonna open the can file, or so another thing with the new UI that's really nice is the tabs, and you can press Ctrl Tab to change between them. I haven't really set up that many yet, but I would Ctrl 2 and stuff like this is reserved for adding a modifier, the subsurf modifier, which I don't know, maybe a lot of people use it, but I personally don't use it. I use the multi-resolution way more, and this whole Control tab as in a browser would be really nice if you could press Control 2 and jump into the second tab and stuff like that. Because once you set this up with all your workspaces, it could be really nice to, you're gonna probably remember which, on what workspace you have painting and sculpting and modeling and texturing, and so you can jump quickly between them. Another thing with the whole tabs and the browser thing is that it would F5 is currently unbound. Personally, I would love if it could detect all the texture data blocks that has been changed on the hard drive but haven't been reloaded into Blender, because nowadays you don't have you only have image data block handler for in properties panels for your brushes. You don't have the general texture one, so it's a bit tricky to update the texture. You have to basically go into node editor and either disconnect and reconnect, or open here, or use this one to reload a texture. But it would be nice, since F5 is unbound, if it could detect all the changed texture data blocks and reload them, because a lot of time you actually do the texturing work in another app. But yeah, it was a bit of ranty, but everything looks super great for the future. I think with the single column layout they could, as I said, add an option to have a multi-column if you want it, but I personally like this one. And yeah, just keep on watching Pablo's video, and I'm gonna wait for the next big updates. So that's everything for this episode. It was a quick one. But it's way too hot out there, and today's football day, so I'm gonna go soon and barbecue and then watch football game. Take care everybody, and happy blending.